A Separation with Yara Elmjouie, Part 4. Salam Yara John, welcome back to Part 4 of our separation series.
Salam Leila John, thanks for having me. Excited to, we're working our way through this.
I know, I'm excited because today we get to introduce a new character. So far it's just been Peymon Momeni with these women, which this movie does pass the Bechdel test, if anyone knows what that is. Do you know what that is, Yara?
Yes, it is about like female representation in films and, how the women characters are basically depicted.
And it's if the three rules is that two women characters talk to each other, have more than like one sentence that like talk to one another. And then the second is that they each have names. And then the third is that they talk to each other about something other than a man. So very few movies pass the Bechdel test, but this one does. There's a lot of conversations happening with the women, not about men. So I just want to put that out there. But now we're going to have a conversation between two men. So let's go ahead and listen to our clip.
صمدی هستم برای کار تلفن.
بله آقا
شما خوبه. ببخشید خود دیر.
اشکال نداره شما فرمودین قبلا کجا کار می‌کردین؟
تو کار کفاشی بود.
خب اون وقت با نظافتشونه که مشکل نداریم.
چی؟
عرض کردم با نظافت از دیروز نمیتونه خوش نگه داره.
نه اب نداره اونم جای پدرم.
فقط چون تنهایین با هم دیگه تو خونه کسی دیگه ای نیست باید خیلی مراقبش باشین ها.
خانواده تشریف نداره.
نه من فعلا مجردم.
فقط جسارتا این کاری که میفرمایید با 300 یا خود کم نیست.
شما خود رو چقدر نظرته؟
شما اگه فقط 400 مثلا حداقل.
من 400 واقعا نمیتونم.
من چند روز میام امتحانی کارامو ببین اگه راضی بودین یه چیزی بزنین روش اگه راضی نبودین اصلا
باشه آدرس یادداشت می‌کنم
از امروز هم اگه بخواید میتونم بیام.
نه امروز کسی هست شما اول کن فقط از فردا بیا یه کارت شناسی هم با خودت بیار.
کارت ملی نه
فرق نمیکنه شناسنامه کارت ملی بیاریم با خودتون که
Ooh. So it's a direct continuation of our last conversation.
Absolutely. All right. So shall we play just the first two lines perhaps?
Yes.
یه زحمتی بگید. سلام آقا.
صمدی هستم برای کار تلفن.
بله آقا
شما خوبه. ببخشید خود دیر.
So we see that Peymon Momeni is working at a bank. So that's why he wanted to meet at the bank last time. So go ahead.
Yeah, so, he's talking to somebody else, I believe, at the beginning. Zahmati Bekishin. It's just figured I'd, insert that in there. Just do me a favor. Zahmat is like toiling, I guess, labor. I don't know. How would you describe Zahmat?
A trouble. Like, go through this trouble for me.
Exactly. Perfectly said. Yeah, so he's finishing off a conversation with someone else, and then the guy approaches, and then he says, Salam, Samadi Hastam. So he's introducing himself with his last name. It's a very formal way, right? It's like, hi, I'm Smith, like, or hi, I'm, Johnson. برای کار پیداتون کردم. I found you for work, basically. He's trying to say that I'm here. Yeah, basically the conversation has been had between his wife and him about how this guy is offering work. And he's saying, yeah, I'm here. I found you because of the work opportunity. And then he says, yes. He responds, yes. How are you? Halatun khube. And so, yeah, if you want to kind of go after that, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Any other notes you want to add?
No, that's good. Halatun khube. Are you well? And then he goes, ببخشید یه خورده دیر کردم. Okay, that's interesting. So I'm sorry. ببخشید. I'm sorry. یه خورده, a little bit دیر کردم. I came late. And so the verb is dir kardan, to do late. So he says, I did late. So it means I arrived a little late.
So
okay, let's listen to the, yeah.
صمدی هستم برای کار تلفن.
بله آقا
شما خوبه. ببخشید خود دیر.
اشکال نداره شما فرمودین قبلا کجا کار می‌کردین؟
تو کار کفاشی بود.
So we already had ببخشید یه خورده دیر کردم, and then the main character here responds again and says اشکالی.
اشکالی نداره. There's no problem. اشکالی نداره. It's okay that you're a little late. خواهش میکنم. It's no problem. خواهش میکنم. We learned in the last lesson, it could be used as like you're welcome or like it's not a problem. I'm forgiving it. I'm forgiving you. That's kind of what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
I forgive you.
And just to add here, we have so many different ways of saying no problem. We've come across mas'ale nist. He could have said mas'ale nist here. We could also say mushkili nist. there's no problem. He's now saying اشکالی نداره. So if you know a little bit of Arabic, you know that مشکل and اشکال, شکل, are two words that are related. So we now have three ways of saying no problem that mean quite literally the same thing. And then, خواهش میکنم, another formality that's just attached to the end of that.
Okay. And then
this next part.
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. You can read that.
Oh, this part. Okay. So this is something we mentioned in the previous episode, and we're now seeing it play out live. So he then says, right? No problem. شما فرمودید قبلا کجا کار میکردین? So here we see the word فرمودن, the verb فرمودن, this flexible sort of multi-dimensional word of formality that we are now seeing used. He's saying, so he's trying to just say شما فرمودید قبلا کجا کار میکردین? So you said, where did you say you worked again? Kind of that sort of vibe is what he's trying to say to the man approaching him for work. And فرمودن here is just like گفتن. شما گفتید قبلا کجا کار میکردید? But he's being extra polite, saying شما فرمودید قبلا کجا کار میکردید. So this فرمودن verb, so useful.
Yeah, that's good. And then he said, تو کار کفاشی بودم. So kafsh is the word for shoe. Kafashi is a cobbler. So someone who fixes shoes. So I was in the work of fixing shoes.
Exactly. تو کار کفاشی بودم. Perfect.
خب اون وقت با نظافتشونه که مشکل نداریم.
Okay. Ooh, very fast.
Yeah.
So I can take this one. So خب, yeah, and that was said very, very quickly. I think when I was transcribing this, I was like, whoa, all right. خب اون وقت با نظافتش و اینا که مشکلی ندارید. So okay, so خب, it means good. اون وقت, this is like, and so, and then,
and then.
اون وقت, yeah, and then it's kind of like, it literally means that time, اون وقت, but it really is kind of like a filler word again, like اون وقت, sometimes I'm just like, اون وقت کی قراره بیا, like, so I'm just kind of like thinking, I'll just throw it in. اون وقت با نظافتش و اینا. So what he's saying, نظافت is an Arabic word, has to do with cleanliness. So you don't have any issue. با نظافتش و اینا مشکلی نداری. So you don't have any issue with the cleanliness and all. اینا. And
or cleaning. To cleaning.
Sure.
Yeah. So, and he's referring to a thing like that, something that you're going to have to clean. So you don't have any issues with cleaning him. And again, we don't have pronouns in the Persian language. So this could be referring to him, her, or it. So
with his cleaning, you have no problems. And then the man responds. This is the part we have to listen to next.
Yeah.
عرض کردم با نظافت از دیروز نمیتونه خوش نگه داره.
So he goes and he's like, "Chi, what? With the what?
Wait, what do you mean? What cleaning?" Yeah.
Yeah. And he goes, "Arz kardam." So this is a really good phrase too, and it's another one of those like formal phrases. Arz kardam. I declared. Arz kardam.
Right. I said. He's basically saying, I already said. Even though it literally is like, I said, what it really means is, I already told you.
Yeah.
As I said.
Or it's kind of like, I repeat. Like, it's not impolite. Like, it's not like he's saying, I already said it. He's just saying, I repeat. Let me tell you again. از دیروز نمیتونه خودشو نگه داره. So again, this is another thing where we don't know who he's referring to, but in context, obviously he's put up an ad for someone to take care of his father, so he's referring to his father. He says, از دیروز, from yesterday, نمیتونه خودشو نگه داره. نگه داره means to hold him. So from yesterday, he can't hold himself. So now we know what he's referring to.
Those are the only details we get, right? He can't hold himself, which, it means he he urinates, basically. He can't hold his bladder, I guess, is kind of the situation with the father. So, yeah, and just to kind of go back, there's two things. So the as kardam thing, and I agree with you, it means I repeat or as I said, because it's past tense, as kardam. But I've seen this used in both ways. I have been in conversations sometimes with, older people in Iran, and sometimes when they're getting a little frustrated and I didn't understand what they may have said or an argument they were making, they'd be like, arz kardam. Like as I said. It's like whoa. And other times it can just be like, a very direct, neutral, like as I said, da 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 da. The second thing I want to draw attention to here is this is very funny. So negah dashtan. The correct way is to hold yourself, to hold whatever. In this case, for the father to hold his, urge to go to the bathroom. But sometimes negah almost becomes negar. خودشو نمیتونه. If you listen closely again, نمیتونه خودشو نگه داره. So I don't know what the situation is in terms of the spoken versus the written, but I've heard, negar a lot when we're speaking colloquially, which, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. So negah versus negar, to keep, to hold.
Mm-hmm.
Should we keep listening?
Mm-hmm.
نه اب نداره اونم جای پدرم.
Yeah, he says نه عیب نداره. اون هم جای پدرمه. So that's a really nice thing to say. He says نه عیب نداره. No, it's no trouble. There's no worries. Nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. اون هم جای پدرمه. So he is in the place of my father. So I would treat him as I treat my father. So he's saying there's nothing to be ashamed of.
And we see a contraction again. Abe becomes eb. So baraye becomes bare. Aslan becomes asan. Abe becomes eb. Eb nadore. So yeah, another way of saying mushkeli nis, mas'ale nis, eshkali nadore, eb nadore. I mean, good Lord. Right. There's so many ways Iranians can say no problem.
Right.
Yeah, so that's perfectly said. Let's go to the next one.
فقط چون تنهایین با هم دیگه تو خونه کسی دیگه ای نیست باید خیلی مراقبش باشین.
Okay.
Very quickly. So here we have فقط چون تنهایین با هم دیگه کسی دیگه ای تو خونه نیست باید خیلی مراقبش باشینا. So this is a lot of, and this is something that I feel like a sentence here where it's like so many things are crammed together. In spoken Persian, we just cram and layer verbs, so it's like فقط چون تنهایین با هم دیگه. Let me see. تنهایین با هم دیگه کسی دیگه تو خونه نیست. So these are two thoughts. فقط چون تنهایین با هم دیگه, one thought, but it's a continuation of the sentence. کسی دیگه تو خونه نیست. No. So because you're alone together, one thought. کسی دیگه تو خونه نیست. No one else is in the home with you. باید خیلی مراقبش باشینا. You must take care of him. You must be very attentive to him. It's this sort of this cobbling together of ideas into a sentence. Like فقط چون تنهایین با هم دیگه کسی دیگه تو خونه نیست باید خیلی مراقبش باشینا. So it's kind of like, I feel like if I were to write this with the correct filler words to construct a full sentence, it would be فقط چون تنهایین با هم دیگه و کسی دیگه تو خونه نیست کاما باید خیلی مراقبش باشینا. But here it's just like فقط چون تنهایین با هم دیگه کسی دیگه تو خونه نیست خیلی مراقبش باشینا. So it's just, I don't know how to describe this compounding of verbs and clauses sometimes into a sentence.
Well, did you talk about the two different meanings of dige here again? So
interesting.
So here, dige is not just filler. Ham dige means together. So there it actually means something. Ba ham dige. So it's not it means ba ham dige. Ham dige is a word by itself. Like it's like together. So فقط چون تنهاییم با هم دیگه. So since you're alone together. کس دیگه, there's not another. So دیگه means another here. Yeah, another. تو خونه نیست. باید خیلی مراقب باشینا.
Yeah.
And it has the awe that we had last time where it's like a.
Oh, it's kind of like shaking the finger. Oh, you need to be attentive to him. Oh.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, okay, next line.
Right.
The next two lines or so, or two or three, I don't know.
خانواده تشریف نداره.
نه من فعلا مجردم.
Okay. So he says خانواده تشریف ندارن. And tashrif is that we've had that before, I think. Tashrif داشتن is to be there or to, how do you define it?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of say the family is not. I mean, to me,
Present.
sharaf, yeah, is not present. The direct meaning is present, but sharaf is something to do with honor. So I almost see it as like the family. It meaning is the family isn't there, isn't home, or whatever, and then or your family isn't home with you. But maybe the more literal translation would be like the family isn't gracing the home with their presence.
Right.
Very formal. And then he just says, "Yeah, na man fe'lan mujaddadan." No, I'm currently single.
Right.
Mhm.
Fe'lan. And at the moment. So.
Fe'lan at the moment. And one thing I should note too with tashrif. Do you sense that sometimes people also eliminate the R when they're speaking very quickly? خانواده تشریف
Oh.
ندارن? Like it's almost like tashif, but I almost sometimes don't hear the R. So خانواده تشریف ندارن. Yeah, it's another contraction I feel that,
It
for
could
colloquial
be.
Persian.
It could be. All right, next part.
فقط جسارتا این کاری که میفرمایید با 300 یه خود کم نیست.
شما خود رو چقدر نظرته؟
Okay.
Mhm.
So here we're back in negotiations again. And
Mhm.
yeah, so yeah, let's go over these and let's compare them to how he kind of reacted to her negotiations.
So this is one of my absolute all-time favorite formal words. We've got a lot of farmoyish, farmudin. We've done all those, and now we're going to get to a whole new level of formality here, which is the word jesaratan. I love this word. I believe it is connected to the Arabic jasur, or courageous, brave. So here, faqat jesaratan, it really is a word. You can throw this into any conversation when you're like, if I may impose, it kind of is the translation is, if I may go so far as to say, think of like a British wizard or something, like, if I may impose, like, if I may, hazard this thought, like, kind of think of that when you use this word. It's like you want to say
Absolutely.
something, but you're a little bit afraid it might be too much. You don't want to overstep your bounds. You don't want to be impolite. Like, your boss says, "Hey, I need you to come work on Saturday." And you're like, "Oh, absolutely, sir. I'm so down to work on Saturday. It's my duty." But, and then you want to say like, "Oh, but I have this birthday I want to go to." And then you're going to be like, "But, jesaratan, if I may just, impose a thought, it's my friend's birthday." And so what he's about to do now, this guy is like, فقط
Perfect.
جسارتاً این کاری که بفرمایید این کاری که میفرمایید با 300 یه خورده کم نیست. So he's now trying to go against what he just said. So he's taking a step.
Yeah.
He's taking a step of courage. This work you want me to do for your father, taking care of him, isn't 300,000 toman? Isn't that a little, like, too little?
Especially given this new information about the not being able to hold himself. He's like,
Yeah,
you want me to
himself
deal
from
with
going
this
bathroom.
jesaratan. Come on.
Yeah,
And yeah, I definitely think that this word is a next level Persian language unlock. So definitely practice using this word in conversation this week. Jesaratan. I love it.
So good. Like anything else also, like just imagine if you have a Iranian boyfriend or girlfriend, you want to go to the parents' house, and just, it could be so good. And you're at the parents' house, let's see, and the parents are like, "Oh my God, we're so happy to have your, whatever, your partner over. So excited." And then maybe the partner who's learning Persian can be like, what else do they want to say? I mean, I'm trying to think of a scenario here. I'm just trying to think of how people can impress their partner's parents. What would be a good scenario? Like, jesaratan. Okay, like let's say they're like, "Sweetheart, tell your boyfriend to come at 7 p.m." But the boyfriend's like, "Oh no, like, I can't do 7. Can we do 7:30? I finish work at 6:30. I need to shower. I don't have enough time." And then the boyfriend who's learning Persian can be like, "Jesaratan, خانم Johnson." Or sorry, not Johnson. It's in Iranian. خانم جمشیدی.
Jafari. Yeah.
جعفری. خانم جعفری، جسارتاً میشه بذاریم واسه 7:30؟ من متاسفانه ساعت 6 و نیم کارم تمام میشه. And then Mrs. Jamshidi or Jafari or whatever her name is going to be like, oh my God, Jasoratan. Oh, yeah, of course, sweetheart. Yes, come at 7:30. The pheasant on the stove. Don't worry, you bless your heart. Like, good word to use to impress the Persian parents.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I had to go off on this tangent of this word.
No, it's a good one. It's a good one. Okay, and then he asks, شما خودت, you yourself, رو چقدر نظرته? So on what is your eye, or is your idea on, is basically what he's saying. That's the literal translation.
Or how much, yeah, رو چقدر, on how much is your
thinking?
idea. Yeah, how much you think. Basically, the meaning is how much are you thinking? And so you could have also just done that as شما خودت چقدر نظرته. Would have also made the same amount of sense, but he's speaking colloquially and he's saying on how much is your opinion. You could do with or without the ru. Same meaning.
Right. Okay. Move on.
شما اگه فقط 400 مثلا حداقل
من 400 واقعا نمیتونم.
So he says شما اگه فقط 400 مثلا حداقل. So he's saying شما اگه, you if, فقط 400, just 400 مثلا, about حداقل, at least. So again, he's throwing a lot out there.
Formal, kind, just جسارتاً. All of these, the whole thing is a formal dance when you're in Persian culture.
400, for example, at least.
And then he responds, yeah, من 400 what is it? من 400 واقعا نمیتونم. Yeah, I can't do. And he replies with, I really can't do 400. Yeah, he's saying it's too much.
That I really can't do. واقعا. I really can't do that. Okay?
من چند روز میام امتحانی کارامو ببین اگه راضی بودین یه چیزی بزنین روش اگه راضی نبودین اصلا
So there's the negotiation.
من چند روز میام امتحانی. I will come for a few days as a test. امتحان. کارامو ببینید. See my work. That's another kind of thought. اگه راضی بودین, if you were satisfied, یه چیزی بذارین روش. Put something on top of that, whatever 300 that you want to pay me. So maybe you can bring it closer to my desired 400.
اگه راضی نبودین, if you're not pleased. And then he says, اصلا نمیخواد, or something like that. Like we don't need it at all, which we don't have in the script, but let's listen to that again.
من چند روز میام امتحانی کارامو ببین اگه راضی بودین یه چیزی بزنین روش اگه راضی نبودین اصلا
He says اصلا هیچی, then nothing. So if you're satisfied, put something on top of that 300. If not, then don't worry about it.
Just forget about it. Yeah, nothing.
Just forget about it. Yeah, and then he responds.
And this is a great way to negotiate where he's like, like, here's the thing. I want 400, but let me try to get 400 as close as possible to 400 from you. And, within the sort of Persian, politeness dance that we do. Okay, well, I'll do 300. And if you were happy, you think about putting something on top of that 300. If you weren't, then hey, screw me. You don't have to pay me an extra cent more. I just
exactly. Exactly.
Very much self-deprecating. Yeah.
اگه راضی نبودین اصلا از امروز هم اگه بخواید میتونم بیام.
And then he's just like, باشه, بذار یادداشت کنم. So let me write that down. Write your number down. Yep. And then and he says, از امروز هم اگه بخواین میتونم بیام. From today, از امروز هم also, اگه بخواین, if you want, میتونم بیام. I could come.
Starting from today. And then we go to the next. Yeah, I think the end is we're almost at the end here.
نه امروز کسی هست. شما اول کن فقط از فردا بیا یه کارت شناسی هم با خودت بیار.
کارت ملی نه
فرق نمیکنه. شناسنامه کارت ملی بیاریم با خودتون که.
First he says, I can also start from today, and then the character responds, well, someone is already there today, and he's talking about that dude's wife, but he can't mention that she's there because that will create all sorts of drama. And someone is already there today, and ruskesi hastish, shom mohabbat kon. Okay, and this is the part where I love. There's two things I want to sort of draw attention to here. Okay, so first off, emruz kesi hastish. She could have said emruz kesi hast. Why is it saying hastish? This is very interesting. It's a little tricky to explain. It's almost like an added emphasis. Today, someone is already there. I don't know. I mean, that's kind of how I think about it. And was, Emruz kesi hast. He could have just literally said very simply hast, but he said hastish. So I assume that she, which is what, a pronoun, is just there's already a person there. Emphasis. And then shoma mohabbat kon faqat. So this is a great, also polite formality-ism in the Persian language once again. You want to double up your verbs and preface them with a very polite mohabbat or lotf, and then you can say mohabbat kon bia, lotf kon bia, lotf kon bukhor, mohabbat kon bukhor, mohabbat kon bishin, lotf kon bishin. So if you put mohabbat or lotf before a verb, you're being extra polite and saying, do me a favor sweetly and do this. In this case, he's saying, Shoma mohabbat kon faqat az farda bia. So do me a favor and come starting tomorrow. And then if you want to take the remainder of that where he starts to say, what does it say? Ye kart
shinasai ba khodetun biyar. So bring an identification card. Kart shinasai. Shinasai means to identify. So bring an identity card. And then he goes, Kart milli ina. So Kart milli is this card in Iran that everybody has. It's an ID card. They started it maybe 20 years ago or something, where everybody in the country has this. Or is it more than 20 years? I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah.
I had a lot of bureaucratic problems getting mine, just FYI. So it's just an ID card that everybody has. So he says Kart milli ina. So one of those cards.
My national ID.
National ID. And he goes, فرق نمیکنه. It doesn't matter. فرق is different. It doesn't make a difference. شناسنامه, کارت ملی. شناسنامه is your birth certificate. کارت ملی, your national identification card. هرچی, whatever. بیارین با خودتون که, bring it with you, so. And then we leave it at that.
Then we leave it at that. So yeah, altogether, I'm trying to think if there's any other things we missed here, but I think one thing I'd written down was just kind of, again, the discussion here of alternating between the informal to and then the formal. So you'll notice that Peyman Moadi, the character, I'm just referring to the actors' names. This is awful.
Yeah.
Will
Nader.
Yes, yeah, Nader, the sort of the middle class Iranian man here, who is working behind the counter at the bank. He will say the informal you, to, but the worker will never say to. It's not that he's saying to, he's using the informal version of a couple of verbs. So he says, Shoma khodet ru chegad nazarete. The formal way to have said that would have been, Shoma khodetun ru chegad nazaretune. Or, nazaretune would have at least been conjugating that last part in a formal way. And then later on, he decides to conjugate it in an informal way. Later on, he says, Shoma mohabbat kon, not mohabbat konid, which would have been the formal. He starts off with the formal shoma, but then conjugates it with the informal kon instead of konid.
Interesting.
See?
Yeah,
so,
these are
and
these
this
subtle things.
Faqat az farda bia. He doesn't say biayit or biayin. So it's such a weird thing, and I noticed this so much. You start the sentence off with formal, but you finish it with informal. You conjugate the verbs informally, and this is what I was trying to draw attention to, not the specific use of to and shoma, but how the verbs are conjugated and what that reveals about sort of the class conflict or what have you. And I think this is just such a fascinating thing. It happens again, and you see these mild slights taking place from someone of a slightly higher class against someone of a slightly lower class. And I think just how that idiosyncrasy is contained in here is just a great way to see how modern Persian is spoken and how class finds its way into things. I mean, obviously, the most polite thing to do would be to use formal for everyone. Why should someone not be deserving of the formal language because of their socioeconomic status? But, this is revealing something to us about the character.
Absolutely. So yeah, let's listen to the whole thing one more time. It was exciting to see a new character in here. A lot of fun. Here we go.
آره یه زحمتی
سلام.
سلام آقا.
صمدی هستم برای کار تلفن.
بله آقا خوبه.
شما خوبه؟ ببخشید خود دیر.
اشکال نداره شما فرمودین قبلا کجا کار می‌کردین؟
تو کار کفاشی بود.
خب اون وقت با نظافتشونه که مشکل نداریم.
چی؟
عرض کردم با نظافت از دیروز نمیتونه خوش نگه داره.
نه اب نداره اونم جای پدرم.
فقط چون تنهایین با هم دیگه تو خونه کسی دیگه ای نیست باید خیلی مراقبش باشین ها.
خانواده تشریف نداره.
نه من فعلا مجردم.
فقط جسارتا این کاری که میفرمایید با 300 یا خود کم نیست.
شما خود رو چقدر نظرته؟
شما اگه فقط 400 مثلا حداقل.
من 400 واقعا نمیتونم.
من چند روز میام امتحانی کارامو ببینید. اگه راضی بودین یه چیزی بزنین روش. اگه راضی نبودین اصلا
باشه حوادث یادداشت
از امروز هم اگه بخواید میتونم بیام.
نه امروز کسی هست. شما اول کن فقط از فردا بیا یه کارت شناسی هم با خودت بیار.
کارت ملی اینا
فرق نمیکنه شناسنامه کارت ملی هر بیاریم با خودتون که
So interesting. All right. And so we'll be back with the next episode, and that one is going to be between Nader and Simin, which will be very exciting. And again, as we've said, if you haven't watched the movie, spoilers lie ahead. So watch the movie before joining us next time.
Absolutely. Great film.
Yara Jan. Yeah, thank you so much for this next episode, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Layla. Yes, looking forward to it.